In this episode, the keys to the Minor and Major Arcana. We are wrapping up our look into the mechanics of the tarot cards. This is a fascinating look into how the Minor Arcana face cards line up and how the cards and the rest of the suit stack up in the sacred pattern of the Tetragrammaton. We also look at the three seprenaries of the Major Arcana and how those cards relate to each other.
In the dark shadows and in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast, we are the brave and bold. The key to the Minor Arcana. Formation of the tarot, study of a color and 4 figures. The 10 numbers, affinity between the figures and the numbers, a study of the 4 colors. The general study of the Minor Arcana. The tarot is composed of 78 cards divided as follows. 56 cards called the Minor Arcana and 22 cards called the Major Arcana. The 56 Minor Arcana cards are formed of 4 series of 14 cards each. The 22 Major Arcana cards are formed of 21 numbered cards and of 1 unnumbered card. In order to study the tarot with success, we must then arrange the following packets. 4 packets of 14 cards each, 56. 1 packet of 21 cards. 1 packet of 1 card. 78 total. We shall presently return to the origin of this marvelous conception of the human mind, but for the present we must confine ourselves to the dissection of the machine and to displaying its mysterious arrangement. Starting from a fixed and immovable principle, the constitution of the sacred Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vo He, the tarot develops the most diverse combinations without one departure from its basis. We shall now unveil this wonderful construction, which confirms in its application the universal law of analogies. You must remember that we are now giving them an almost infallible key to the ancient occult science, and they will understand that they must open the door of the sacred arch for themselves.
The Abracast, occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Let's get it! Let's get it! 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, welcome to the Abracast. I'm John Towers. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. All right. Anyhow, we are going to continue on this is a continuation of the tarot card series, and we're using the same book. We're using the Tarot of the Bohemians. We're up into chapter 5, the key to the Minor Arcana. We're going to blow through this so we can actually get to the cards. I know everyone's like, come on, they're tarot card episodes. What are you talking about all this Hebrew nonsense for? Just hang with me, bros. Let's just hang with me. But going into this, it's not a disclaimer. I just need a, like, sort of, I'm a full disclosure kind of dude. So, I'm going to tell you that I don't divine with tarot cards. I don't read people's tarot cards. You know, I don't tell people's future. I don't plumb anybody's depth psychology with tarot cards. And some of you guys out there are probably like scratching your heads. Like, you know, you've said in prior shows that you're obsessed with these tarot cards. And that it is true. I am obsessed with the tarot cards. I've had I don't collect them. I have 2 sets of tarot. I used to have 3 sets, but the one set was bullshit. I have 2 sets of the Rider-Waite deck. And one set I thought was complete, until I started dividing it out for, like, so I could play along with this episode. And then I found out that I'm missing a 2 of Swords. And I'm like, the 2 of Swords is a cool card. It's like the chick, like, she's sitting there in the white robe and she's blindfolded and she's crossing the 2 swords in front of her, and the swords are like real big, like they're huge swords. And I'm like, fuck, where's my 2 of Swords? So I'm actually recording this later than normal because I ripped my whole studio apart looking for this 2 of Swords card and I couldn't find it. So I go and I confer with my wife, Violet Corbeau. She has many sets of tarot cards. And I'm like, do you have my 2 of Swords for some reason? She's like, what are you talking about? So, I'm like, well, where is it at? And then I noticed, so I have tarot cards framed and mounted all over our house. They were kind of like, I thought that originally, I mean, I thought that it was a cool idea to frame tarot cards for decorations. But I used them as kind of jokes. Like, so in the bathroom, there's like the emperor sitting on his throne. And then there's like the ace of cups, because it's like a cup with like water pouring into it, and the king and queen of cups, because they're like sitting on like white thrones, like surrounded by water and stuff. So I thought it was funny. And then in my kitchen, I have cups and swords framed and hung up in my kitchen, you know, for like dishes and fucking utensils, you know what I mean? So the 2 of Swords is hanging up there in my kitchen, and I'm missing it down here. So I might have to fucking break that out so I can get my complete deck. It bugs the completist in me. Fucking like is bugged out by the fact that my 2 of Swords is fucking not here. So, okay, you're asking then, like, well, what do you use these cards for if you don't, like, read them or whatever? And I use them for a bunch of different things. Creative stuff. Like, if I have writer's block, I'll just lay out 3 random cards and I'll create a narrative around them, like past, present, future kind of thing, which is a technique that they use, that people sometimes use. They do a 3-card spread, past, present, and future. Or I'll look at a symbol in them and think about it, or I'll look at like something in the card, and they're so interesting that you can find a bunch of different, like the moon. You look at the moon, and there's all kinds of there's actually astronomy in the moon card, or like the star card is a great one, especially if you go back and like think about Velikovsky or something. Like, so the star card is this naked woman. Hey, I'm like, ow. And she's got a pitcher and she's pouring water into like a little lake, and she's also pouring water onto the ground. And you're like, oh, well, I'm like, oh, it's a flood. This card is talking about a flood. And then you look, and there's the sun, I guess, is in the middle. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there's 7 other like stars coming in. So to me, like if I'm like need to bust up my writer's block and I would look at this, I'd be like, oh, it's like an asteroids, right? Like asteroids are coming and it's going to cause like a flood. And that would be the kind of thing that would launch, a story. Or just like I'm just flipping through these and like, so there's the world card in a Major Arcana and it's this woman and she's surrounded by like a wreath or something. And in the 4 corners of the card, there's a man, an eagle, an ox, and a lion. Well, I know that those are representatives of, or those are symbols of, order of angel, right? So, the seraphim have 4 faces, one of a man and one of an eagle and one of an ox and one of a lion. So I would be like, oh, so this would be a story. Like I would jot out like a fast thing just to bust up my writer's block, right? You can actually see my version of a seraphim in the Ages. The hero or the villain, depends on what side of the fence you're on, of the story, has to take on a seraphim. Or, here's a judgment card where it's this, fiery angel blowing a trumpet, raising these 2 families up from the dead. And there's like a river between them. It's like, that's the example of a story. Here's Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune's interesting because it uses the same man, eagle, oxen, and lion, but they're already in angelic form. They already have wings. So you have a man, and they're all reading books too, which is great. And then in the circle, the Wheel of Fortune circle is the word Torah spelled out. And then there's like a sphinx with the sword on top of it, and this weird red devil jackal guy on this side, and a golden snake on the other. So it's like, this would be like a Gnostic story to me. And then there's, the high priestess. She's got like a crown with a moon on it, and there's the Kabbalistic tree of life behind her, and the crescent moon at her feet. And then she's got the 2 pillars of Solomon's temple to either side, a B and a J, and she's holding the Torah. So that's Boaz and Yakin, the kingly and the priestly pillar. But it also says BJ, and it's the high priestess. So if I'm using that as a writing tool, I'm like, uh-oh, it's time to get sloppy, if you know, you know what I mean? All right, so I feel like I've just been babbling for a long time. All right, let's get into this tarot of the Bohemians. Let us now take one of the packets of 14 cards and analyze its construction. Oh, This packet taken as a whole corresponds to one of the colors of the pack. Now, when they say colors here, they use the U. They use like the Anglophile spelling of it, and I think they're just talking about the different like sections, I guess. Here, okay, it's going to explain it. The 4 packets respectively represent the wands or scepters. Now, I mentioned this in, I think, my first tarot card episode about how our modern playing cards are kind of, they're derived from these different suits or colors, as they're calling them in this text. The 4 packets respectively represent the wands or scepters corresponding to our clubs. The cups or goblets corresponding to our hearts. The swords corresponding to our spades, and the money or pentacles corresponding to our diamonds. We shall now study one of these packets, for instance, scepters. So here I got my Rider Waite or Waite Rider deck, and the Waite Rider deck calls them wands. This packet consists of 4 figures: the king, queen, knight, and knave or squire. and then 10 cards which simply bear numbers. The ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We must first consider the four figures. All right, I'm going to do this along with the reading here. It gets a little confusing, and I'm going to try to explain it as much as I can, just using it. So this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to describe them as like the cardinal directions. So there's north, west, south, and east. So north is 12 o'clock. West is 9 o'clock. South is 6 o'clock, and east is 3 o'clock. And I'm going around it this way on purpose because this is the way, if you listen to the other two tarot card episodes, this is the way it goes because it's based on the Tetragrammaton. So it goes king is at north, queen, which is at the west, knight, which is at the south, and knave or squire, which is at the east. So king is 12 o'clock, queen is 9 o'clock, knight is 6 o'clock, knave or squire is 3 o'clock. All right. We must first consider the four figures. The king represents the active, the man or the male. Okay, whoa. Third wave feminists, hold on. The queen is represented as passive, the woman or the female. The knight is represented as the neuter or the neutral. This is the adolescent. And the knave represents the fourth term in this sequence, which may be figured this way. Like I said, king is the north, king of the north, queen in the west, knight in the south, and squire or page or knave at the east. This sequence is only an application of the general law Yod He Vo He, which we already know. And the analogy is established. King is Yod, north. Queen is the first He, west. Knight is the Vo, south. Knave is the second He, east. All right. The knave therefore corresponds to the second He. It is only a term of transition, but transition between what? Between the four figures and the 10 numbers as follows. Let us study these numbers we are acquainted with in the law of numbers, the law of the sequence, which we have already stated in these terms. Okay, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. The 10 cards cannot escape from this law, and we can at once arrange them in this series. The first series will be formed of the ace representing the active, the 2 personating the passive, the 3, the neuter, and lastly the 4, which represents the transition from one series to another series. Okay, so I'm actually going to throw these down as I'm doing it. Okay. Ace, 2, 3, 4. Ace is in the north, 2 is in the west, 3 is in the south, and 4 is in the east. Ace is Yod, 2 is He, 3 is Vo, 4 is the second He. So it gets a little tiny bit confusing here. The other series follows the same rule exactly. The second He of the preceding series becomes the Yod of the following series. So this is the transition that they're talking about. So Ace, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the second He. So 4 becomes the north of our second series. So 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And then 7 would go on to become the Yod or the north for the last series. 8, 9, 10. All right, so let's just talk about these. Let's just talk about these cards for a second. I need to back up and just talk about these cards for a minute. So the Ace of Wands is like this ghost. It's like the hand of God coming out of this cloud holding a wand. And all these wands are kind of super phallic, right? They got like a knob on the top of them. They're like, they have like little leaf sprouts and stuff on them. So the Ace of Wands is this giant hand holding this phallic wand. The Two of Wands is this guy. He has like these two staves around him, and he's got this jaunty little cap and a cape, and he's holding the world in his hand. He's looking off of this wall into the landscape, holding this world. And then the three, a lot of these dudes have their backs to us. There's only four of the 10 cards that are actually facing us. Okay, so the three is this guy. He's got like a Boba Fett kind of shoulder cape on top of a longer cape, and he's got these three staffs, and he's looking down onto like a yellow sea with boats. I think that's interesting. I don't think I've ever noticed that was a yellow sea before. And then the 4 card is like these two people are getting married. They're facing us, but they're real far away. There's a castle in the background, and there's like 4 of these wands kind of holding up a garden salad. And then 5 is these 5 kids. 3 of them are facing us. 2 of them have their backs to us. And they're beating the shit out of each other with these sticks. And then 6 is this kind of faggy looking dude riding a horse, and he's got a stick with a wreath on the top of it. And then 7 is this guy. He kind of looks like a giant. He's like on a cliff, and he's got a stick, and he's fending off these other sticks coming at him. And then 8 is these 8 sticks like in the air. They're like flying, like someone threw 8 sticks, and they're like flying. And then 9 is this dude. He's facing us, and he's been beaten. Like he's got a bandage around his head, like, you know, like the Spirit of 76 guys, like the drummer that's all beat up with the fucking like pipe player, like the flute players and stuff. He's got a stick. He's kind of using it as a crutch, and he's got a bandage around his head, and there's all these other sticks around him, and these fucking sticks look like they're judging him. They're like, he's like, he needs to find a safe space because these sticks are judging him. And then the 10 is a guy. He's got his back to us, and he's carrying out like this armful of like 10 sticks. Okay, so in our first series, Ace, 2, 3, 4. And then 4 becomes the north or the top of the cross or the yod of our second series. And then 4, 5, 6, 7. And 7 then becomes the top or the yod or the north of our last series, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we see that the same law, Yod He Vo He, can be applied to these series. Since this law is also applicable to the 4 figures, we can make the comparison based on the following proposition. The two terms, the numbers and the figures, equal the same third. The Yod He Vo He are equal between themselves. The sequel in one color would then be King, Queen, Knight, Knave. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't think I did so bad explaining that, right? You guys understand what I'm talking about? So now if we group all the numbers and the sequences according to the letters of the Tetragrammaton, to which they are analogous, we will find representing Yod is King 1, 4, 7. He, Queen 2, 5, 8. Vo, Knight 3, 6, 9. Second He 10. And the Page The figure 10 therefore acts as the numbers as the knave acts for the figures. That is to say, it serves as a transition between what? It's between one color or one suit, as we would call them, and another. The affinity between the figures and the numbers. We have already studied both the figures and the numbers separately. Now let's see what connection exists between the figures and the numbers. If we group similar terms according to identical law, which rules them? We shall find them as follows. All right, so we got the king, the queen, the knight, and the page. Then we have the ace, the 2, 3, the 4 goes up to the king, the 5 goes up to the queen, the 6 goes to the knight. And the 7 goes to the king, the 8 goes to the queen, the 9 goes to the knight, and the 10 goes to the knave. So it's like the king, the ace, the king, the ace, the 4, and the 7. Yod, king, 1, 4, 7. North, king, 1, 4, 7. Queen, 2, 5, 8. West, queen, 2, 5, 8. Hey, queen, 2, 5, 8. Knight, south, Vo, 3, 6, 9. And then squire or page, 10. East, second Vo, page, page 10. The sequence of the figure is reproduced 3 times in the series of numbers. That is to say that each series of numbers represents a conception of the figures in each of the 3 Kabbalistic worlds. I refer you to the Kabbalah expanded episodes. The supernal triangle, the ethical triangle, and the psychological triangle. The series 2, 3, 4 represents the emanation of the sequence king, queen, knight, knave, in the divine world. So that would be the supernal triangle. In series 4, the series 4, 5, 6, and 7 represents this evolution in the human world, which in our expanded episodes would be called the ethical triangle. And series 7, 8, 9, and 10 represents the evolution to the material world, or the psychological triangle of a material body. The material body. So if you remember the Kabbalah episodes where we talked about how the different sephiroths correspond to body, the parts of the body, or the different layer, like the different levels. On the material body, the knight, 7, 8, and 9. On vital force, which would be the internal organs, I guess, would be the queen, 4, 5, and 6. And on the intellect, the supernal triangle would be king, 1, 2, and 3, and the reproductive organs would be the knave, or the page, or the 10. Each of these parts can subdivide itself into 3 others. It's this idea of this triangle over and over again, and the numbers indicate to us. However, return to the deduction by summing up the results obtained. We shall find the representation of the yod, the king, the ace, the 4, and the 7. The representations of the hay is the queen, 2, 5, 8. The representation of the Vo is, we know, the knight, 3, 6, 9, and the representation of the second hay, or the east, would be the knave, or 10. And these represents the way they're represented. So if you think of a bar graph, or not a bar graph, think of a gun, kind of think of a gun scope. Like you're looking through a gun scope, and like traditionally there's the cross in the middle. Now, I want you just to turn the cross to make it an X. So the center, the first like circle, the innermost circle is the Tetragrammaton. The innermost circle is the pi pieces of the X is Yod, Hey, Vo, Hey. And then the next ring is King in the north, Queen of the west, Knight in the south, and Knave in the east. Then as the ring comes out, the king, it goes Yod, King, 1, 4, 7. I think this is really cool. Hey to the west, Hey, Queen, 2, 5, 8. To the south, the southern pie piece, innermost circle, Vo. And then it goes Knight, and then out. Think of like it as a bullseye. You're moving outwards like a dartboard. You're moving outwards from the bullseye out to the first ring. Knight, 3, 6, 9. And then Knave, you have the 4 and the 7 because those are the transitionary pieces. And then on the outer ring, you have a 10. So there's some other diagrams here on this stuff, and they're all fascinating looking diagrams. But I can't explain them better than I just did. All right, the study of the four colors supplied with these data. Let us continue our study. I'll tell you what. I'll throw these into the plan thing. So if you sign into the newsletter, you get a link, and I'll put all these different diagrams up there for you guys to check out. Supplied with these data, let us continue our study and apply the same principles to the other cards. The laws which we have defined for the constitution of one color apply to the same way to the other three colors. These are the different suits they're talking about. But when considered the four colors of the tarot, new deductions will be called forth. We must remember that these four colors are scepter, the cup, the sword, and the money or the pentacles. The scepter, oh, here we go. It's a microcosm. It's a microcosm. This is the Kabbalah in action in tarot cards. I tried to explain the different sephiroths of the Tree of Life as a filter, and they all echo through each other. So we just went through the staves or the wands or the scepters. And I wonder why he started there. Well, here it goes. This is very brilliant. He started there because the wands cards represent the male or the active. So these wand cards are going to go on to become the yod position. Do you see what I'm saying? The scepter represents male or active. The cup, which makes total sense, is the image for passive or feminine. The sword represents the union of the two by its crucial form. So this would be the neutral or the knight or the south position. And lastly, the pentacles will be represent the second hay, or the transitionary period. Or not transitionary period, but transitionary position. The authors who have philosophically studied the tarot are all unanimous in asserting the analogy exists between the Tetragrammaton and the four suits or colors. Guillaume Postel and the above all Eliphas Levi have developed these studies with great results. And they show us all the four letters of the Tetragrammaton applied to the symbolism of every cultus. We must pause for one moment to notice the analogy between these letters and the symbols of the Christian religion. The yod, or the scepter of the tarot, represented by the episcopal crossier. It's the cross, I guess is what they're saying. The first hay is the cup, represented by the chalice. The veau is the sword, the cross bearing the same form. Okay, so I don't know what a episcopal crossier is. I imagine it's probably what the Pope, he's got that little staff that he uses with the triple cross on it. That's probably what they're talking about. The second hay or pentacles by the host, the transition from the natural to the supernatural world. And this is when you get when you take communion and they give you those little waffles. Or, sorry, they're not waffles, they're wafers that taste like envelope glue. Well, it's funny that those would be the transition position, because that's the symbolic. It goes into your mouth as a shitty tasting wafer, but by the time it gets to your stomach, it's the body of Christ. I mean, I don't know. I mean, come on. What? Hey guys, every mainstream show this month has an extension on Patreon for the $5 tier. The week 1 extension episode is the House of Air Wands. It's an extension of the continuation of the tarot card series. Week 2 extension is the Battle the Battle of Tours, which I've been threatening to do for quite a while. It's an awesome show. The extension for week 3 is Metaphysics of Sex Magic, the Kundalini Homunculus, and the Curse of Pasiphae. And the extension for week 4 is the Patriot Conspiracy. The Patriot Conspiracy. And just like always, the $3 tier has all of this month's mainstream shows available for commercial free right now. The whole month of January is available right now. Thank you guys for the support and for listening. Thank you. Oh, a portion of all Patreon support donations and ad revenue goes to helping us send books to deployed servicemen and women overseas. We call it Tomes for Troopers. This month we were able to send out this female was looking to get a whole collection of the Songs of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones book. So we were able to provide them with Dance of Dragons. I was pretty excited about that. And a shout out to Marie and Heather and also my old man for donations this month. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. So there's also this cool graphic that shows the 4 colors or the 4 suits in the scope kind of graphic that we were talking about, and how the King, Queen, Knight, Knave, 147, blah, 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 how it all fits into the Tetragrammaton. So it's an expanded view of the scope image that we were talking about earlier, but this encompasses all of the different suits. It's very, very fast. I'll make sure it's in there. I'll make sure it's in the thing as well. All right, so we're going to move into the Major Arcana. The Major Arcana. The key to the Major Arcana. The fundamental difference which exists between the Minor and Major Arcana is that in the later, the figures and numbers are united. While in the former, they are distinct. There are 22 major arcana, but one of them bears a 0. So that, in reality, there are only 21 great or major arcana. Like I said, this 0, the Fool, became the Joker card in our modern, set of cards. Most of the authors who have studied the tarot have devoted all their attention to these 22 cards without noticing the others, which, however, contain the real key to the system. We will leave the digressions and commence with the application of the law, Yod, Hey, Vo, Hey, to this portion of the tarot. A little reflection will suggest to us that there should be some sequence to the major arcana as well as the minor arcana. But how are we to define the limits of this series? Each card of the minor arcana bears a symbol which easily connects it to the whole scheme. Wands, cups, swords, pentacles. It is different in this case. Each card bears a different symbol. Therefore, it is not symbolism that can guide us here. At all events, for the moment, besides the symbol, each card expresses an idea. This idea already a better guide, for it is easier to classify than the symbol. But this guide does not yet offer all the security we would desire, for it may be read differently in various persons. Again, the idea proceeds from the action of the symbol upon the other terms expressed by the card. The number. The number is certainly the most reliable element, the easiest to follow in its evolutions, and it is therefore the number that will guide us. Each of these cards have a Roman numeral on the top of them. That's the number he's talking about. The number is certainly let us now recall our explanation of the numbers, and we shall easily define the series of the major arcana. However, from its commencement, we must make one great reservation. The series which we are about to enumerate are the most usual, but they are not the only ones. I've mentioned in the show before about substitutions and evolutions in the card. The main one that I've noted is the Strength card is now in this Rider-Waite deck is it's a maiden closing the jaws of a lion, but in medieval times it was a pillar. It was technically the pillar of Boaz. I think you can find that episode on Patreon. I don't think it's on the mainstream anymore. With this said, now let's study the first 4 major arcana. Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 at once indicate the classifications to be adopted by the nature of the terms that we've already went into, right? Okay, hold on. I gotta organize my shit here real quick. 15, 16, 17. This sucks. It looks, I'm missing, fuck. God damn it. All right, let's do this 4 cards at a time. The Yod. All right, so it's the same pattern, right? The Yod. This is the Magician. It's in the north. The High Priestess is to the west. She's the Hay. The Empress is to the south. She is the Vo. And then the Emperor is to the east, and he is the second Hay. So the Magician is the active, the High Priestess is the passive, the Empress is the neuter, and the Emperor is the transition. This 4th arcanum corresponds to the Knave and to the 10 of the Minor Arcana, and becomes Yod to the next of the following series. So we've anticipated this. If we wish to make a figure of the first tyranny, 1, 2, 3, we should do it in this way. So it's moving from a cross to a triangle. So the Magician is at the top of the triangle, the top of the pyramid. The 2 is to the, left angle. The 3 is to the right angle, and that goes back up to 1. And then the 4, or the Emperor, is in the middle. Yod is at the top. Hay is at the right. Vo is at, Hay, the first Hay is at the left. Vo is at the right, and then the Emperor is the second hey. It's in the middle of the triangle. The active term 1 is at the head of the triangle. The other two terms are at the other angles. This tyranny can also be represented in its affinity with Yod Hey Vo Hey, and that's at the cross, north, west, south, and east. The second Terne, I'm going to struggle with this word until I can figure out a better way to say it with some kind of confidence. We have stated that the 4 becomes Yod, or the active term in the following sequence. So we're going to scooch this over here. And it is realized in this figure below. So it would go 4, Yod, north, the emperor, the Hierophant, west, Hey, the lovers, south, Vo, and the chariot, east, second, Hey. Yeah, that's right. The 4 representing the Yod, therefore, acts with regard to the 5 and the 6, as the 1 acted in regard to the 2 and the 3, and we obtained another tourney. 4 at the top of the pyramid, 5 at the left angle, 6 at the right angle, and 7 in the middle of the pyramid. The 7 acts here as the 4 acted previously. And the same rule applies to all series in the Arcana. The first septenary, the application of one law into very different terms, has led us so far we must not abandon this system but preserve and say, if one tyranny exists, an active term, Yod, a passive term, Hey, and a neuter term, Vo, the resulting from the first 2, why should not be the same result be found in the several tyrannies taken together? Ternaries? Taken together. The first ternary is active and corresponds to Yod. The second ternary, they're talking about the whole first series now is Yod, and the second series is passive and corresponds to Hey. The reaction of one tyranny upon another gives birth to a third tyranny, or the vow. The 1, 2, 3, the 5, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to include these images. It's interesting because it seems super easy. It's one pyramid, like you would think, and then 4, 5, 6 is an inverted pyramid. And this is the same thing you see in the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. The supernal triangle is upright, and the other 2 triangles are pointed down. And they numerically jam them together, making a little tiny Star of David. The 7, therefore, forms the element of transition between one septenary and another. If we define the analogy between the first septenary and the Yod Hey Vo Hey, we shall find a deduction may be made in passing from passing from one which is a great deal of information may be derived if it be carefully studied. So here they're putting these triangles on the cross that we've been dealing with, on the north, west, south, and east cross. So series 1 through 4 is now the Yod. 2 through 5 is the first Hey. 3 through 6 is the Vo, and the second Hey, or the east, is the 7 card. A deduction may be made in passing, from which a great deal of information may be derived if it be carefully studied, the 4 being only the one considered negatively. The 5 is the only the 2 considered negatively, whilst the 6th is the negative of 3. Gobbledygook. I'm lost in my own narration here. It is always the same number under different aspects. Okay, so let me look at this. Okay, so the yod is 1 through 4, the hay is 2 through 5, the vo is 3 through 6, and the second hay is 7. North is 1 through 4, west is 2 through 5, south is 3 through 6, and east is 7. All right. The 4, okay, if it's carefully studied, the 4 being only the 1 considered negative. The 5, the 2 is considered negatively, while the 6th is the negative of the 3. It is always the same number under different aspects. We have, therefore, defined the first septenary formed of 2 opposing tyrannies. Okay, so this is why the triangle flips, I guess. It becomes the negative. Second septenary, the law applies to the first tyrannies, is also true for the others. The following the same method, we obtain a second septenary thus formed. I'll put this in the handout or whatever. I'm not even gonna be able to try to 7, 8, 9, 10. 7 is the top of the pyramid, 8 on the left, 9 on the right, 10 in the middle. Top of the negative tyranny pyramid is 10, 11's on the left, 12's on the right, and 13 is in the middle. The 2 tyrannies, positive and negative, will balance each other out to give birth to a second septenary and to its term of transition, which is 13, which I'm holding in my hand. Which is the strength card. Oh, no, that's not right. Never mind. 7. I'll put these figures in. But if the 2 tyrannies respectively act as a positive and the negative, why should not the 2 septenaries do the same? The first septenary takes as a whole will therefore be positive relatively to the second septenary, which is negative. The first septenary corresponds to yod and the second to hay. The third septenary will be formed thus. So it's the cardinal directions. Yod is 13 through 16. Hay is 14 through 17, Vo is 15 through 18, and Hay, the second Hay, is 19. So we have another Star of David diagram here. If the first septenary is positive and the second is negative, the third will be the neuter. So this is the septenary we're talking about. It will correspond with Vo and should have, therefore, definitely first positive septenary, second negative septenary, third neuter septenary. Yet each septenary contains one term which belongs to the preceding septenaries, which belong to the following. Thus, the seventh term of the seventh septenary, and the first term of the second, 13, the last term of the second septenary, and the first of the third. It's getting in the weeds, I know, just hang tight. The result is that 3 remain to be classified. These are 19, 20, and 21. So you have the 19, 20, and 21. These 3 terms form the last tyranny. But if you have 3 and there's only 3 sides of the pyramid, what goes in the middle to be the transition? The tyranny of because this is the tyranny of transition. So the first triangle is on top, the north. The second triangle is to the west. The third triangle is to the south. And this is the transitionary period. This is the second hey. So there's 4 cards going to be here. 19 is on top, 20 is to the right, and 21 is to the left. What's in the middle? What acts as that transitionary piece? Yod, hey, vo, hey. What is it? The last number card, which ought to be correctly to bear the number 22, or its Hebrew correspondent, closes the tarot by a marvelous figure which represents its constitution to those who can understand it. We will return to it presently. Therefore, the Major Arcana is a great law, is defined as represented. And I'll have this picture, this representation in the thing. It's brilliant. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is amazing. The first septenary corresponds to the divine world, or to God. The second to man, the third to nature. Finally, the last tyranny indicates the passage from the creative and providential world to the created and fatal world. This tyranny establishes the communication between the major and the minor arcana. Man, that's some good stuff. So the card that's in the middle of this tourney is the 0 card. It's the Fool is the transition card, and this is actually the card. Okay, I'm not going to get too far into this. A lot of podcasts are doing tarot card episodes right now, so as the time as I'm recording this, so I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. And then there's this last graphic. It's this huge graphic, and it's of the scope image that we were talking about before, but it shows how they all interlock and they're all work together in this bullseye thing. Like, the bullseye in the middle is the Yod Hey Vo Hey, and how it explodes outwards into the different colors or the different suits, into the different, into the different cards. It's brilliant. Now that I know what I'm looking at, it's pretty awesome. So thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope that I've attempted to make this. I've attempted to make this understandable without actually showing these images. But there'll be if you sign into the newsletter or whatever, you'll be sent a secret link to part of the website, and I'll have like a PDF download so you can check out some of these images. Because unlike the Tree of Life, I don't think you're just be able to Google search this and find these images. But anyhow, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the support, and we love you. We love you all very much. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks for all the support. Please remember to swing by and give us a 5-star rating and a good review. Hit up the mailing list for monthly bonus content and access to graphic components of the show when available. Every mainstream of the show this month has an extension on Patreon for the $5 tier. Week 1 is the House of Air Wands. It's the tarot card extension. Week 2 is the Battle of Tours. Week 3 extension is Metaphysics of Sex Magic, the Kundalini Homunculus, and the Curse of Pasiphae. And week 4 is the Patriot Conspiracy. And just like always, the $3 tier, all of this month's mainstream shows are available commercial free. Right now, that's for the whole month. And a portion of all of our Patreon support, all of our donations and ad revenue goes to helping us send books for deployed servicemen and women, American servicemen and women overseas. This month we sent out, someone was trying to get a whole complete collection of the Game of Thrones book, the Songs of Ice and Fire. So we were able to send them Dances with Dragons. I want to send a shout out to Marie and Heather for their donations, and also for my old man who donated for Tomes for Troopers. I like that. Thank you guys very much. And last but not least, please remember to check into abercast.com. The feature topic links are all up and running, I think. You can find links to social media there, and you can also check out some comic books or graphic novels if you're interested. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.
In the extended episode, The House of Air, Wands, we start to look at the actual cards in our tarot card series. The suit or color of wands is examined in this episode. We talk about communication, knowledge, willpower, and a pilgrim's quest. A portion of all Patreon support and donations goes to Tomes for Troopers to send books and other media to deployed American service members.
The question has often been put as to whether, in the astrological idea of creation, air or fire ought to be regarded as the highest element. The answer depends on the standpoint we take. In the highest cosmological or cosmo-philosophical sense, it is fire. In the cosmo-practical or cosmo-natural sense, it is air, as the secret doctrine undoubtedly makes us understand. Where the disillusion of the cosmos at the end of a Man Van Terra is treated of, and it is said that the earth is dissolved or engulfed by the waters, water evaporated by fire, and finally fire disappearing in air. Here, air is acting as the atmosphere of the globe or system disappearing. So for all practical use in astrology as well, it is air which is able to give the highest expression in the divine. As the atmosphere of a globe, it is the link between it and the ether of space, carrying the rays of divine solar center, as well as those of the relatively demoniacal surroundings to the other elements constituting the existence of the globe. In a similar way, the suit of wands will appear to be something of a link between the lesser and the greater arcana. This we will deal with later. Taken in this way, air is the bearer of the message from the divine or the unmanifested to the terrestrial or manifested worlds. The wands are the significators of the message in detail and of intelligence which astrologically correspond to air. Consequently, of higher thought and mental process. The magic wand is used to convey the divine, or at least semi-divine, willpower of the self-acting as a magician into the world of phenomena.